Okay, so page 146 in your text. What we're doing today, okay, we are still displaying data, but we are also interpreting, don't know, 1, 2 or 2's, interpreting, displaying data in and interpreting, and we're doing stem and leaf diagrams. Have you done them before?
Yeah.
Yeah? Already?
Last year.
Do we not need to do them then?
No, we can do them.
Oh, if you know how to do them, there's no point.
I don't know. Well,
You don't know how, okay.
We can read.
Alright, let's have a quick go. Let's have a look. So what I'm looking at then, I'm just going to run through with you. We've got exercise 6b, and we're looking at question 4. So basically we've got some data, okay? I'll write this out. 29, you don't need to write these numbers because they're in your textbook, aren't they? So 29, 27, 33, 30, 46, 40, 35, 24, 21, 58. Might just pause. Okay, so all we're told is that we need to draw a stem and leaf diagram. Okay, we are actually told with a stem of 2, 3, 4 and 5. But basically what we've got is we've got all this data. It could represent anything. We're not told what it represents. What could it represent? Those numbers. Any ideas? I was thinking it could be a maths test score. Maybe out of 60 for a class, yeah. Could be something like that. It could be the lengths of stems of tomato plants in centimetres. Yeah. It could be the number of minutes you spend thinking about maths in a week. Make sense? Could be anything. So we're going to put this in some sort of order, and we're going to use a stem and leaf diagram to put it in order, just so, like any other chart. What?
Oh, I thought I knew how to draw.
Okay. Like any other chart, we're just going to display the data in a nice way. Make it easier. Alright? Go on then. What do you think we need to do?
So, on the left side, we do. Can we start off with the lowest number? So you would do 2.
Okay. Why?
Because that's all I remember.
Okay, so I'm going to put a line which is going to be my stem. And you say on here I'm going to put my
2.
a 2.
Oh.
And then a
3,
4 and 5. Where do they come from? Yes, Tara.
They come from the start of the numbers.
Okay, so we've got 2s, 3s, 4s and 5s. So they're not actually 2s, 3s, 4s and 5s. They are 20s and so on. So what we would have to actually write is over here, we'd have to write a key. Right? And my key would be 2 something. So if I put 2, 3
Equals 20. Yeah.
means 23, yeah. Okay? So these would be my 10s. Now what that means is I don't have to repeat something that is repeated lots of times. Okay. Now when we do a stem and leaf, lots of people now would, probably you guys will want to go straight to the finished article, but actually what's expected is that you go through and it's all a little bit kind of disorganised to start with. But what is important about stem and leaf diagram? Everyone remember?
be in order?
Has to be in order, but also it really has to be
Neat.
neat. What do you mean by neat?
Like, you have to make it.
Well, I'm going to give you a clue if I can do this. Right, why have I put squares on my paper?
Make it easier for us to see it.
But what is therefore important?
In line.
They've got to be in lines, in columns. So for instance, let's go through these. So 29 goes in and becomes 29. So I've done that one. Now 27 goes,
Before.
not yet. So I'm just going to put the 7 afterwards. 33 goes there. 30, and you can see how it's lined up. 46, 40, 35, and so on. Right? We keep going until. So once I've got them all like that, they're sort of half in order. So I've grouped all the 20s and I've grouped all the 30s, the 40s and 50s. What do you think I have to do now? Well, there's no times at the moment, but we have to put them in each block in order. It just kind of helps us. So I should actually rewrite it again, but this time in neat, like completely in order. So now I can do 2 and I can just start putting them in order like this. So I've got a 1, a 4, 5, 2 7s, and a 9. Now you might be saying, oh, but it would have been easier to put it in order in the first place. But actually, it helps not to make mistakes if we do it in this way. Put my 3, would be 0, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6. My 4 will be 0, 2, 6, 8, and my 5 will be 0, 1, 7, 8. Right? Okay, so we've got things lined up. Have you all kind of got the same sort of idea? Now, it's a stem and leaf diagram. What does it remind you of? Okay.
It's the stem and then the numbers of the leaves.
Yeah. Any other type of chart does it remind you of?
Cool. Bar chart.
Bar chart, yeah.
Sideways bar.
So yeah, exactly. So for instance, if I were to do this, look, I think, will it draw it? Come on. Yeah, there you go. So you go. If I draw a bar, if I draw another bar. That's why it's important that we put the numbers in the right way. So it looks like kind of an on its side bar chart. So this is how we can kind of read. Now we don't need to do that, put the bars on. That was just me showing you. Kind of by lining it all up, we can now see that which group of numbers has the most in it.
2 and 3.
They're not 2 and 3, they are
20 and 30.
20s and 30s. Okay? So, what we're going to do now with our stem and leaf diagram, because we've put all our data in order, there's certain things we can now work out. Right? So, for instance, we can work out what the median is. Now, the median is a type of average. Do you remember how to find the median?
You add them all together and you divide.
No.
That's not average. In the middle.
They're all averages. How do you find when you add them all
Do you
up?
count? Do you like?
Okay, hang on. Let me address one thing. When you add them all up and divide by, that's actually working out the
Range.
the mean.
Oh,
Yeah, that works out.
the range is the biggest and the smallest.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's do the range then. We can find the range. What's the range?
The range is
50.
50,
The max minus the min. So in this case, what's
51, 50,
58?
minus 21.
Okay, good. So we've got 58 minus 21, which equals?
37.
What does the range tell you about data?
There's 37 numbers?
Well, it's definitely not 37 numbers, is it?
Well, I don't know.
So that's what you know how to calculate the range, but do you know what the range is? What does it tell you? What's the point?
The range between like where, whatever your data is telling you, like
The range between the numbers.
And what does that mean?
like, let's say like if it was like math score stuff, you
Yeah,
got
okay.
in between 21 and 58. You got somewhere in between there.
Yeah, so that's the range, but you would fall somewhere in the range. But what does the range actually tell you? What does it matter knowing it? How can it affect things?
Well, if there's a
So you ought to be able to have, there's a big range and a small range or an in-between range, yeah? So for instance, if that was the range of test scores, if this was your math test score from 0 to 60 and the range was 37 marks,
that's the average.
no. That's the difference between the highest score and the bottom score. Is that a big range?
Yeah.
Would you be looking, like in this class, if the bottom person scored 21 and the top person scored 58, would you say that was quite a big difference? Yeah? If the range was 3 marks, what would that tell you about the class instead of having a range of 37?
Not good grades.
Not necessarily.
Well, there's
Because the range is 3, it could mean that the lowest was 3 and the highest was 6. And out of 60, that's not very good. But what does a small range tell me?
wasn't much of a difference.
Wasn't much of a difference. So if we're talking about, if I'm a teacher and I'm looking at the range of the scores you get, what does that tell me about you guys? If you've got a big range of like 37 marks.
We're good.
Not necessarily. The range doesn't tell me that.
So that some people got some.
Yeah, could be. If there's a large range, does that mean it's like some people really don't get it and some people do get it? And that actually is such a big difference that what have I done with the people that got quite low and why is the person at the top so far ahead? So if there was a large range, I would start going, now where is the problem? Is the problem that one person on their own got very low? Should they move down a group? Or was it one person that got very high compared to everyone else? Should they move up a group? Or, which is a more difficult one, is everyone spread evenly between the highest and the lowest? Which I guess is what you'd expect, right? Because you're generally going to get a spread. So if this was a class in maths, would you say there was a nice even spread?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
There's quite more towards the lower end, right? 21 marks, 24 marks, 29, 30. There's actually less at the top end, isn't there? The 40s and the 50s. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the range we should write really is how spread out the data is. So it's not necessarily about whether people are good or bad or high or low or anything like that. The range is just how spread out the data. Ideally, would I want a low range, a high range, or a medium range for you guys for maths tests? Really? What would be my ideal situation, really? High range or a low range?
Low.
No.
I would want a low range. And what about the scores?
A high score.
High score. Yeah? What would be the worst case scenario?
High
range.
A long distance.
No. Still low range, but
A low.
low score. That would mean you are all bad. Yeah? I want a low range, but at the top end. I really don't want a low range at the bottom end. If I have a spread, like a high range, at least that means I've probably got some of you doing really well, but some of you doing not so well. Yeah? Does that make sense? So that's how you can use the range. So we've got that range. It's easy enough to do. Yeah? What about the median then? We just did decide. How do I work out the median again? Someone said put them all in order
The middle.
and find the middle. Have we put them all in order?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what doing a stem and leaf has done for us. We've put them in order. So all I've got to do is find the middle.
But if it's like, if it's odd, then it wouldn't be 2. It'd be like.
Okay,
No,
you
we
remember
have
that,
to-
yeah?
There'd be two
I
numbers
remember
and they
something we
basically
did.
track each other.
Yeah.
Well, we find the middle of those two numbers,
Yeah.
actually. So how do we find the middle of these numbers?
Do you have to write it out
I
in
mean-
line?
We've got it in a line.
You have to count
There's
how many
20
there are.
numbers.
Okay, right. So there's 20 numbers. So, is there one number that's in the middle of its 20 numbers?
No.
No. What would people that don't really understand say? 20 numbers, the middle is
10.
10. Because they divide by 2 and so the middle is 10. But if it's not 10, what is it then? So I would say, so look, if I do,
It's the 10th number.
not quite. So if I do 20 numbers, I'm just going to put a line to represent 20 numbers. And if you want to find the middle, yeah? If I split 20 numbers into 2 bits, how many on either side?
10.
10. So that means I've got the first number up to the 10th number, and then on the other side I've got the
10th number.
no,
First
11.
the 11th number up to the 20th number. So there's 10 numbers on each side, right? So how do I find the middle?
Would you take the
Go in
weighted
between.
10th and the 11th?
Exactly. I've got to find the 10th and the 11th numbers and go in the middle.
I know.
So what we do, start with the lowest and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Next one is
30.
7.
Oh,
Okay, 7, you're right. 8, 9, 10, 11. So the two numbers I want are these two here.
34 and 30.
So that's the 10th number and that's the 11th number. So the median is halfway between those two. So it's halfway between 4 and 5 is? What? Okay, 4.5. So the median is 4.5.
No, it's 34.5.
Well done. 34.5. What does that mean then? So the median is a type of average. How would you, if that was a maths test score out of 60 and you're a teacher and that's your class and you say the average score is 34.5, what would you say? The median score. Oh, how would you judge that class? Have you got work to do with that class or
Yes.
why?
Pretty low. Yes.
Pretty low.
That's a low
It's
score.
over half, but
That's a low.
Just a bit over half,
It's
yeah?
a low. That looks. Is that a? That range is low, and that's a low score. So that's bad.
The range is high.
The range is high. Yeah.
37 marks between top and bottom. Now we have to be careful though, don't we? We've talked about this before. Do you remember is it you guys? One of you said, what's the average for the class for a test result? And I've said, I'm not telling you.
Who knows?
I never.
So for instance, this person, if I said
Oh, it was wrong.
the median is 34.5, the person that got 36, are they happy or not?
They're above. Well, they got average
They're above an average, yeah,
by 1.
by half, 1.5,
Yeah.
no?
Yeah. What if you?
But are you happy?
No.
Yeah. I
A little bit.
Not really. I wouldn't, but I guess.
I was.
No, exactly, you wouldn't. Why wouldn't you be?
Because
it's
it's
low.
low. Score just above you.
Yeah,
It's
and
But-
the average is low.
Well, that's the thing, is the average worth comparing yourself to?
No.
no.
Not really, because you want to know how well you want to do, right? But if I use this as my average, look at all these people that got way above. So I might be slightly above average for the class, but that's not a very good average, is it? Right? Now the average, if I were these people here, would I be happy to be lumped in with everyone else and go, well, the average for the class is 34.5, that class is not very good?
You wouldn't be happy
Why wouldn't you be happy?
because you said, "Oh, well, I got 2 marks off 100%. Why?" But our average is 34.5. I wrote in here. Everyone knows that I'm just not.
Yeah. Look how many people are quite way above average, and the problem has been caused by the fact there's a big range. So because we've got a big range, the average has been brought down. So that makes people that haven't done necessarily very well feel like they have because they're above average. But actually, the average is not very good. But that doesn't mean the class is all bad, because quite a few people got much higher. So you've got to be careful when you do the average. Anyway, does that work for you? Do you understand about the median and that kind of thing, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What about the mode?
All right. What about the mode?
Isn't that the most?
Okay, so mode. I'm going to say modal as well, just so you recognise it. Modal is the most common occurrence. So what's the mode score? 58, do you think?
No.
Oh, the most
It's either
common
27
is
or
34.
So we've got,
34.
so if we look at it, we have, and this is why it's quite good, so we've got 2 27s and we've got 2 34s. So everything else is just 1, yeah? So we would have, in this case, 27 and 34 would be my modal scores. However, have you got a comment on using those as my average? Because the mode is another type of average. Would you like me to say, if you were in this class, would you like me to say, oh, the average is 27?
No.
Why?
It's really low.
But it's the average, one of them.
There aren't 20 numbers.
Was there any 19 numbers?
Yeah.
Okay. Should have checked that, shouldn't we?
I did.
But we got the idea.
Didn't you say 27 out of what?
60, we reckon. But if I said to you, but can you comment please on the mode?
Wait.
Mode is the most occurring, and we've got 2 modes. But the most occurring really needs to mean a lot more than everyone else, yeah? What can we say about the modes in this?
The most frequent test scores were 27.
Yeah, but how more frequent than all the others?
Like 2. I don't know.
So there was 1 of every other score, and there just happened to be 2 of these other ones, which made them the mode. So it's not much different, yeah?
No.
You'd want more of the same score to be like.
Yeah, exactly. So in this kind of situation, the mode isn't particularly useful, right? Do you get that? It's very important when we do these kind of, when you do your little project for your assessment and you're going to work out averages like that for me, all right? You need to be able to say, oh, I'm not doing the mode because actually, even though the mode is 25, there's only 2 25s and there's only one of everything else, so it's not significantly bigger than anyone else. I definitely would not want to say the average score for this maths class was 27 out of 60, would I?
No.
Definitely not.
That means that everyone's very low.
Can I ask you, you can do this now, could you work out the mean for me? Do you know how to work out the mean? That's add them all together,
Oh, and then you divide.
divide by the number of numbers. So why don't you do that for me? You can use your calculators if you wish. So what do you work out as the mean? Okay, so add all the numbers up. Did you do 1, add 4, add 5, add 7, add 7, add... No.
21 plus 2.
Good. 21, add 24, and so on. So what did you get when you added all the numbers up?
37.35.
So that's the mean.
Oh, I
But
got
what did you get when you added all the numbers up?
Yeah.
Seven-
Oh, I got 747.
745
I got 747.
over...
747. It's 747.
Is it 747?
Yeah.
Yes, and I'm right about this one.
Okay. 747 divided by 20.
It's 37.1.
So just to add to our notes then, so all of these numbers... Oh, come on. All of these numbers added up equals 747, yeah? Is that what you're telling me? Okay, and then we've got 20 numbers. So it's 747 divided by 20, and you think that is?
37.35.
37.35?
35.
25.
What? 25? 35?
It's 35.
35.
Why is mine 25? Oh, I know what it is.
I might round that to 37.4, because that's what we call 3 significant figures. Now, looking at all that data then, so we've got a mean of 37.4, okay? We've got a mode, which is 27 and 34, and we've got a median, which is 34.5. Which average do you think is the best one for representing this class if it was a maths test score?
So basically the highest number.
Well, is it the one that makes them look
no.
the best? It's not that, it's the one you think best represents the data.
I think it's the 37.4.
Or does it not matter?
I think it's 37.4.
So if we have a look, we've got the 37.4 would fall about 37.4 would be around here, yeah?
Yeah.
The median of 34.5 we know is there. And then the mode at 27 and, well, it's around about here. Yeah?
Yeah.
So they're all in the bottom half.
Yeah. But I think that 37.4 kind of like. It's
So you
kind of
think
getting
that
up there.
this one here at the 37.4 represents the whole group as a whole, yeah?
Yeah.
Because it's not halfway, because halfway is there. But is it better at showing actually we got some really good scores? Yeah? So that's why it's important that we consider all these different averages. Which one is the best one to use? Now, can you understand how in newspapers and magazines they can write stories and use whichever statistic makes their story seem better? So for instance, if I was someone that was trying to make the point that, well, you're obviously not teaching your maths class very well because your average score is,
They use the worst.
which is 27, and they would just use the word average. Your average is 27.
Actually,
That's really, really bad. And are they lying? Is the average 27?
One of them.
So no, they're not. They're telling the truth. But they're picking the one that suits their story. Where I would go, hang on, no, it's not that bad. The average is actually 37.4. It's not as good as I want it to be, but it's a lot better than you're saying it is. Who's right? Both of us.
Yeah, you're both right.
And that's why, you see, do you notice when people, companies want to sell things, they do their statistics and they only give you the good statistics, or they figure it in such a way that they tell you the good side of it but don't tell you the bad side of it. They're not lying, but they're not telling you the whole truth. Yeah? 6 out of 10 cats prefer whiskers, but 4 out of 10 don't like it at all. How different is that? You know, that's the thing. Where does that? So it's that whole thing. So we've done stem and leaf diagrams today. We've done how you find them. Is that a recap for you? You've done that before, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we might be coming towards an end. So you've got your one question to do for homework. You happy with that? All right. Don't forget your other homework as well.